Some of you may have received a DNA kit for the holidays from a company such as 23andMe or Ancestry.com. Well, since you're likely still waiting for the results, let me show you someone else's results while you wait. What I'm going to show you today is what the Ancestry results for Queen Elizabeth would look like if she were to take a DNA test. Please note, though, that these are not actual DNA results. Rather, they are predictions based on what we know about her family tree. But there are two reasons why I suspect that these hypothetical results would be extremely close to actual DNA results. First, royal family trees are the most well-documented family trees in the world, and they go back really far on almost every branch. Second, the parentage of royal individuals is actually much more likely to be trustworthy than that of an average person, especially for the last several hundred years. This is because they lead pretty public lives, and when they have secret love affairs, which they often do, the people around them tend to know all the who's and when's. So before we look at the results, let me tell you why I decided to do this research. There's a common belief out there that the Queen is actually German, or at least mostly German. Some people even think that her line only goes back to George I, and that she has no connection to previous dynasties, such as the Plantagenets, Tudors, or Stuarts. So let me set the record straight. Queen Elizabeth II is not only a direct descendant of the Plantagenets, the Tudors, and the Stuarts, she's also a direct descendant of William the Conqueror and of several of the Anglo-Saxon kings that came before him. The only reason that the name of the royal house has changed over the centuries is because sometimes the line passes through a daughter and not a son. But in almost every case, that daughter was determined to be the most senior heir. If you're interested to see the exact line, all the way from Alfred the Great to today's queen, you can check out the video that I did on that exact subject. I'll link to that in the description. Now, it is true that the current royal house, the House of Windsor, is in fact a branch of a German house called the House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. In the UK, they simply changed the name to sound more Britishy. That happened during World War I for some pretty obvious reasons. So if you were to trace the Queen's line backwards, looking only at the male-to-male line, you would indeed find lots of German ancestors. However, when it comes to DNA, we have to consider all the branches of a person's family, not just one. And every generation that we go back, the number of branches doubles. So there are a lot of ancestors to consider. So the results you're about to see are based on the full family tree of Queen Elizabeth, going back about 10 generations. Anything beyond that becomes statistically irrelevant. So without further ado, here are the results. So as you can see, the Queen does in fact have quite a bit of German ancestry. It's shown here in the blue, and I've calculated it to be about 43%. But her largest ancestry block is in fact the British and Irish category, shown in red. So about 47% of her DNA comes from ancestors who were fully English, Scottish, Welsh, or Irish. Now, the third largest group may come as a surprise to you. According to my research, the Queen is about 6% Hungarian. This is because one of her great-great-grandmothers was a Hungarian countess. It is through that connection that she descends from the brother of Vlad the Impaler of Romania, thought to be the inspiration for Count Dracula. I did a video on that topic too, which I'll link to in the description. And finally, you can see that she has a bit of French DNA as well. Now, most of the British and Irish ancestry you see here comes from her mother, who was also named Elizabeth. And most of the German ancestry comes from her father, King George VI. So prior to Queen Elizabeth, it was in fact true that the British monarch was mostly German, at least genetically speaking. Of course, when it comes to culture, loyalty, and place of residence, George VI was most certainly British, as was his father and his father's father, and so on. Okay, what about the next generation though? What would the DNA results look like for Prince Charles, who is next in line for the throne? Well, I crunched the numbers for him as well, so let's take a look. You'll notice a big change here, and that's because Prince Charles's father, Prince Philip, has a lot of German ancestry. Now, you might have been expecting to see some Greek or Danish ancestry, being that Prince Philip was previously a member of the Greek royal family, who in turn were descendants of the Danish royal family. But the current royal house in Denmark traces its roots back to Oldenburg in Germany, and it has primarily intermarried with other German houses. Thus, Prince Philip's Danish ancestry is really actually German ancestry. All right, what if we were to go one more generation forward to the individual who is currently second in line to the throne, Prince William, the Duke of Cambridge? Aha! Here we see that the British and Irish ancestry goes back up. This is, of course, because of William's mother, Princess Diana, who had primarily British ancestry. So when Prince William becomes king, the United Kingdom will finally have a monarch that is more than 50% British and Irish. Now, I didn't make a chart for William's son George, but considering that William's wife Catherine is almost entirely of British descent, this red section is going to get even larger in the next generation after William. So that was a look at the predicted DNA results for the next several generations of the British royal family. Let me know in the comments what you think about all of this and whether or not it even matters to you what the ancestry of a king or queen is. Thanks for watching.